can go.
Welcome in, family, to the Lost Caravan RPG, where we do all kinds of different RPG things. So totally lost my train of thought there for a second. We do one shots, we do miniseries, we do full length campaigns, anything and everything TTRPG related. Now tonight we are here for episode 3 of Dark Baptism, our Old Gods of Appalachia playthrough, and we before we get started, we want to say thanks to our sponsors, Bonnie Cook Publishing, the publishers of Old Gods of Appalachia, as well as the entire Cypher system and all kinds of other things that are fantastic. Check them out if you have a chance. They make some really good stuff. Now, Old Gods of Appalachia is a horror role-playing game, and as such may not be suitable for everybody. Now, we do take our safety tools serious here, and we've all been over everything. And so we know what we're good with, but make sure you take care of yourself, and if something comes up that don't sit right with you, step away, take a moment. If you feel like coming back, come on. But if not, no worries, and just maybe take a walk or do something else that makes you happy. With that said, we will get into this, and I want to just kind of go around the room here real quick and let everybody tell you who they are and what they're playing. And I'm just going to go in my camera order here. Which puts JD first.
Hello everyone, I am JD, and tonight I am playing Stella, who is a cursed speaker who becomes the beast.
And we're just going to go clockwise here because I like clockwise. And that will take me to Kian.
Hello everybody. My name is Kian. Tonight I am playing Ellis Witt, who is a beholden sage who knows the unknowable.
After that, we're going to drop down to Omen. Is Omen having technical problems? Those have been plaguing us tonight, let me just say. Well, let's skip Omen for now, and we'll just go over to Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean, and tonight I will be playing Virgil Stokes, a loyal speaker who speaks in tongues.
And Alice.
Hi guys, I am Alice. Tonight I'm going to be playing Evelyn Harper, who is a curious sage who serves the green.
Omen, can you hear us? I don't think Omen can hear us.
Omen has completely dropped out the call.
Oh no. Oh. Well, while we wait for Omen to see what's up and see if they can't come on back, let's just we'll just start up. It's been a night. Where we left off, a stranger had wandered into town, and turns out he was bearing a number of marks, brands, and such things that didn't quite sit right with anybody. With the help of a local Granny Thorn, these folks managed to maybe find out a little bit of information, help out Caleb just a little bit, but it's only bringing up more questions. After retrieving some items from Granny Thorn's cabin and bringing them back to town, the group has settled in to the house that they are currently occupying, at least temporarily, and at least attempted to get a good night's sleep. Don't know how everybody slept, but I suppose we'll find out. But the next day dawns, and of course, most folks tend to get up with the sun around these parts. So, what does morning look like? Virgil, what's going on when you get up in this strange house and the memory of last night comes back to you?
I think that the first thing Virgil does is in his backpack he has a fresh change of clothes. And I think not only the terror sweats he was having during the events of the previous night, but probably the fitful night as well, has left his fairly nice, playing outfit kind of drenched. So he takes the time to step away and change into something a bit more fresh, and is in general probably in search of coffee or tea to help bring clarity of mind after everything that's happened so far.
Say, because y'all are staying in the house that belongs to the widow Bondi, but thus far y'all haven't really seen hide nor hair of the widow since Granny sort of ushered her out of the room yesterday, and this morning doesn't seem to be any different. Where she's got off to is anyone's guess. Most likely Granny found something for her to do that was elsewhere, not around y'all and Caleb. But the kitchen seems to be open to you. Coffee doesn't seem to be anywhere around, but you can certainly find some tea or something along those lines that at least might have a little bit of a pick-me-up in it.
Yeah, and I'll get that started with the others in mind as well.
Now, Ellis, your experiences may be a little bit different than some of these folks. And when it comes to strange and unusual things you've seen your fair share. Of course, last night, when y'all managed to remove that one sigil off of Caleb, how does that affect your morning?
I wake up very quietly, and I'm really intentional about taking my mornings for myself. Because as we have seen as of last night, things can be very chaotic. So Ellis is very, very focused on starting the day quietly. And typically that involves a little bit of meditation, a little bit of letting their magic kind of flow naturally instead of keeping it restrained as they do throughout the day. But this time, instead, they reach into one of their pockets and they pull out a stone that kind of looks like it's wrapped in vines um, and they kind of worry at it a little bit because using their magic like that, meeting a magic that strong, um, it's shaken them a little bit. And as they did last night previous, when they were sort of reaching for the stone when they needed that moment of comfort, they're kind of holding it again and just kind of thinking through what happened the night before, what interacting with that magic felt like. And then they kind of sigh to themselves, put the stone back in their pocket, and they will head downstairs and probably just greet whoever else is awake, and then as soon as they can, head outside to kind of breathe in fresh air and take their time outside.
Once you step out the door, you notice, not too far off, the kind of diminutive, hunched figure of Granny Thorn has beaten you out there, and she's kind of puttering around over where it looks like a little garden kind of deal. Doesn't seem to be doing much other than checking on some of the plants and such that are growing over there. And she hears the door and kind of glances over at you and just a little wave and goes back to poking at her plants. And she seems to be very intent on checking certain ones and such, and you get the feeling that even though this isn't technically her house, that's one of her gardens.
I am an herbalist. Nature is my home, and so I'm going to go over and kind of observe what Granny is looking at, and take stock of the plant, and do whatever I can to help, but I won't start a conversation or say anything unless she does.
You see most of what's kind of growing in this little patch are herbs and plants and such that you recognize that could be used for, you know, a salve, a poultice, various things for healing and fixing folks up who might be sick or something like that. Generally common stuff, at least common to this area. A few things that maybe not necessarily the same sort of things that you would have used back where you're from, but you've spent enough time in this area to recognize that, these are kind of all over the place. And people tend to. Granny doesn't really say much, she maybe kind of mutters to herself a little bit, turning over a leaf, or maybe brushing away a bug of some kind, some aphids or something that she might see on one plant. And other than that, she just kind of keeps to herself, and she stays at it. She doesn't shoo you off or anything like that. Just kind of goes about her business and lets you look and poke around as you will, as long as you don't, break nothing.
I'm very, very careful to be very respectful of the garden.
So, Evelyn, we also saw last night that you definitely have your own connections to, well, strange and unusual, shall we say. And, that was definitely shown last night to, I think most folks that were with you kind of realized that maybe you're not as mundane as some other folks might think. What's your morning ritual?
I think after last night, because after last night, she was probably up pretty late, but still rising up with the sun pretty early. In the morning, though, she likes to stay busy. So there's probably, if Widow Bondi is not up yet, Evelyn probably takes it on herself to make use of the kitchen and kind of go through the larder, see what's there. Would the Widow Bondi keep chickens or anything like that outside?
The widow at this point is kind of getting on in years and doesn't do much of that sort of thing. She can't keep up with it at this point. You did see her last night, and you tell she's kind of an aged woman, maybe not as old as Granny Thorn, but definitely seen a number of years. You figure at her age, most of the time, that sort of thing comes from other folks, rather than stuff that she's not going around chasing chickens and slaughtering them herself.
In that case, Evelyn probably wouldn't make use of what eggs are in the house, just because they are probably sparse and far between at the moment. But it'd probably be something as hearty as she can find, most likely like sawmill grits or oats, something thick, buttered, and in the case of like oats, sugared down, dried fruit, trying to make enough for everyone as she's gotten accustomed to at the camp.
I mean, despite being, in this tiny little town that isn't much at all, this house is probably the biggest one in town. And while you don't really know anything about the widow's husband, it's kind of plain to see that they weren't hurting when it came to money and such. And she probably has a decent amount socked away someplace, because the pantry's pretty full. She's got a good amount of stuff in there, and as is fairly common for folks around these places, it's they tend to make a lot of food for a lot of people, whether it's after church dinners or bringing food to folks who are sick or anything like that. So she's definitely got a good chunk in there. You can make a pretty good sized breakfast for everybody.
Then she definitely take it on herself to maybe make a little bit more use of it, but still keep it in mind that groceries aren't always the easiest thing to find. So at least a little more sparse on like the fresh eggs and meats, things that are a little harder to obtain.
Stella had a little run in the night before with a little birdie.
Aren't no bird.
How did how did Stella sleep last night after that particular experience?
I don't think Stella probably slept very well at all. I left my moonshine back at camp because it's heavy. So there was nothing to get me to sleep. So the voices did not leave me alone all night. So I probably had very fitful sleep, if any. And I believe I would go out on the porch and away from evil in the morning, because I am not the most pleasant in the morning. And probably pack myself a little pipe and just sit on the porch and be by myself, watch the animals skittering around.
Well, once you make it out on the porch, you realize that you weren't the only one that had that basically exact same idea, as Yona is actually sitting out there as well, basically doing exactly the same thing that you were thinking of doing. And she kind of glances at you, but doesn't really say anything. Just more of a. And then goes back to watching the world around her.
Mornings are peaceful.
Well, at least for now. It doesn't take too long until after y'all are up and about and such that Granny starts rounding everybody up. You can smell the cooking coming from the kitchen, fresh breakfast, send a tea. One way or another, that little old lady gets everybody kind of gathered up and in there to sit down and eat. The widow's got a actually pretty nice table, hand carved of course, and it looks like it's probably been around for a good 20-30 years. Solid oak. Got a share of nicks and scratches and stuff, but it's sturdy and big enough to hold a family that may have once lived here. She gets everybody all gathered up in there to take out this here breakfast that was so nicely made by Evelyn. She kind of looks around at y'all as you're filling up plates and grabbing the butter and the tea. Well, now that we got everything that I need, I think at this point we can find out a little bit more about what's going on about Mr. Caleb there. Now, I let him sleep for a while, because I figure he must have been awful tired after all that running, whatever they must have done to him before. But, you all get a nice warm meal in you. Drink some of this here tea. It's very nice tea. I generally prefer a little bit more sugar in mine, just so you know for the future.
Really noted.
But you get this nice breakfast in you, and then I'll go wake up Mr. Caleb here in a little bit, and we'll have ourselves a little bit of a sit down and try to see if we can't figure out what's going on. How does that sound to everybody?
Sounds good.
Yeah, good. Now pass me them grits.
Make sure Granny served first, along with the widow Bondi, and start doling
The
out
widow-
plates to everyone else.
Granny brings in the widow there just before breakfast as well. And apparently the widow likes to go for walks in the morning. That's where she was. So you have your breakfast, nice and filling and full. A good kind of breakfast that we serve down here in the mountains and the hills. Stuff that'll keep you going for the long hours. And afterwards, Granny will leave y'all to clean up with the order that y'all clean up now. Don't be leaving no mess here for the widow. And she will wander off back into the house to go get Caleb.
I like to imagine that because we're all so used to living in community, as soon as Granny says that, everyone immediately jumps up and has their role. One of us is picking up plates, the other one starts cleaning them. Like, we have an entire system already laid out.
Exactly, and that's the thing, since y'all have been in the Wanderers for the time you have been, that's the way it works there. Everybody pitches in, does a little bit of every task, so that it's easier and faster, and you can get in, get out, and get to something else. So it's not long before you meet Granny back out in the living room. And she comes out there, and Yona's with her, as well as Caleb. Now, Caleb looks a little bit shaken still. But he looks at least like he slept. And given how exhausted he was before, it's quite likely he slept deeper than any of y'all. The widow brings him out, kind of sets him square in the middle of the floor on a little old rug. And she has Yona bring down her book, her pendulum, and a map. Kind of sets them all out. And then Granny being Granny starts tossing around orders. Now, Virgil, you take that map there, you spread that out over here for me on the floor. You make sure them edges are weighted down nice. Go find a rock or something if you need to, but you don't want that curling up on me.
I'll do it.
Yeah, Mr. Ellis there, do you know anything about doing dowsing and pendulum work? Did you hear me, Ken?
Oh, I'm so sorry. My brain totally blanked. Which is honestly probably what Ellis is that's where Ellis's brain is at too. When Caleb comes down, because Ellis is not trusting. Like, this is all still, they're still feeling a little sus. Kind of shakes and jumps up. No, ma'am, but I'm a quick learner. I can pick it up if you need me to. And Ellis has done pendulum work, but around Granny, Ellis feels like a beginner to everything, so is going to just lay down any skills that they have.
What about you there, Evelyn? You ever worked with a pendulum and a map?
A map, yes, ma'am, but I'm not a pendulum. My granny taught me what she could, but there wasn't enough time for everything.
Yeah, that's all right then. I got it. I've done this a few times myself. And then she kind of sits back in a little rocking chair that's sitting there, and she's got that book in her lap, and she starts flipping pages. And you can just tell by the sound of the pages, the way they rustle and scrape. This book is old. Like, that sound that old paper gets when you brush it against each other, and it's just those. And she's flipping pages and such, and every once in a while she'll stop and she'll kind of lean real close. She ain't got her bifocals or nothing, So she leans real close to them pages. That little finger and starts looking at something, and she'll look up at Caleb. And Caleb's just sitting there looking just nervous as anything. While Granny basically studies the marks that she can see on his arms and such. And then after a while, she just kind of nods and says, all right. She'll close up that book with it. You know, that sound heavy books make when you thump it closed, so just that thud kind of sound. You get that, she'll set it aside. It's like, all right, I think I got some ideas about what's going on here. But here's what we need to do. We need to figure out where these folks is doing what, and where Mr. Caleb here came from. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'll work the pendulum, but Miss Evelyn, Mr. Ellis, I'm going to have you sit on either side of Caleb there. What I want you to do is take one of his hands, each of you, and I want you to think real hard on trying to figure out on trying to concentrate real hard on finding out where he come here from. We're going to see if we can't make a link back to that. Get this here pendulum, tell us where it's at. Does that sound all right?
Man.
Of course. And as Ellis goes over, they pull the stone back out that they had, and nobody else would be. A little flavor for the audience. They start whirring it as you whirl the stone, and some of those vines start to flake off, and scales that are blue and green reflective underneath the vines, and then they notice what they're doing, and they kind of readjust and try to cover that as much as they can, and they hold that in one hand and take the other together.
Okay. So once you all settle down there, and Caleb's hands, they're clammy, you know, clammy, but at the same time a little sweaty. You can almost feel the nerves and everything that's going through this man as he kind of looks from one of you to the other and kind of licks his lips and then looks back at Granny almost expectantly. Granny, she'll slowly get up out of her chair because that's the only way she can, and kind of move over to where she had Virgil spread out this map. She'll kind of wave you over, Stella, and she's like, all right, help this old lady sit down. She'll kind of lower her down there, and you hear like pop, pop, crack, crack on old bones and joints as she gets down on the floor. Whew, glory be, it's going to be a minute before I can get back up. And she pulls this pendulum out of the pocket on her dress, and it's a silver chain with that almost clear bluish crystal hanging from it. And she's going to undo it and kind of pull it out this way, and she's going to hand one end of it to you, Stella. And the other end, she's going to wave Virgil over and say, here, you take the hold of this. Now you each stand on one side of the map there. Now kneel down. You got to get that closer to the map. It's too far up. You're standing up there. And then she's going to pull out a little rock. Have another one in her pockets. And you can all see it looks like one of the stones that come out of the rivers around here. You know, they all have kind of that polished look to them from the water running over them. This particular one's got a little bit of looks like a hole that's been worn in the middle of it. And she's kind of got that in her hand, and she kind of moves you all around a little bit to position her crystal there, and then she pokes it and sets it to swinging around. And she's worrying her stone there, and she's just watching, and you can see her lips moving. You can't hear what she's saying. She might just be talking to herself, or she might be, well, doing something else. You never know with someone like Granny. And she takes that stone and she holds it up to her eye, and she's looking at the map through it as she's talking, and you see that crystal starts to slowly kind of going around slower and slower, and then it just stops. And it's just hanging at this angle that don't seem right. Things hang straight down, they don't hang at this nice 45-degree angle here, pointed off at some point. She kind of nods and gets real close to that map so she can see the words on it, see exactly what she's looking at, because again, she's left her bifocals at home apparently. She kind of taps the map there a couple times and nods and reaches up and takes her necklace back from you, and she'll just put it around her neck just to keep it out of the way. Things like, go ahead and roll that map back up there for me, sir. I appreciate it. Oh God! Well, I'm just gonna stay down here on the floor because getting up ain't sound right now. Well, I did manage to find some of these symbols here that are on Mr. Caleb's arms. I found them in this big old book. Now this book here, it was my mama's, and she got it for her mama. And we don't know how far back it goes, but it's been passed down in the family for many, many years now. Now, I have to say, those hair symbols, they ain't good. Whoever is doing whatever they're doing, whether they know they're doing it or not, they messing with something bad, something dark. So most of these symbols here that I can find, they're the kind of symbols that you use to call something, summon something, bring something up out of the darkness and the shadows into the light where it ain't supposed to be. The thing is, with all that I know about these kind of things, well, just doing it to Mr. Caleb here, that wouldn't be enough. So that tells me that they got more folks like Mr. Caleb. I don't know how many, but if they're actually trying to do something like this, then there's got to be a number of them. And it pains me to think about all them folks being caught up in whatever deviltry this is. Now, the map there shows me that Caleb here, he came here from a place called Crawls Creek. I don't know how many of y'all have ever been there, but it's a fairly middling-sized little place, big enough to have a train stop. And unfortunately, it ain't that close, but I'm afeared that time might be of the essence. We're getting close to that new moon. Under that kind of darkness, well, there are things that can be done that you can't do with the light in the sky. So that only gives us, well, less than a week. "30 years ago, I'd have made the trip myself, taken myself over there and knocked some sense into whoever's playing around with things that they can't understand. As it is, I can barely make it from my house to town in less than a week. These old bones don't move too fast, you know. So I'm gonna ask you, would you folks be willing to go in my place?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it probably won't get any worse than it was last night, right? And Ellis is half joking, is mostly hopeful, half joking.
It can get a
Yeah.
lot worse.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
But
Just have to let Gregory know.
I'm happy to do it. After all, it might help me some with my own things. Actually,
We're also just
Any-
going to assume that Yona and Emil said yes as well. So
Speak for them.
they're scrubbing the kitchen floor right now.
Granny, how far is this? You called it Crawls Creek?
Crawls Creek, yes, ma'am. Sure. Crawls Creek. If you were to go on foot, it'd take you a few weeks to get there. I think the fastest way would actually be if you could get up to Potterville, you could catch the train. And that'd get you there awful quick. On account of not having to, cross any rivers or climb up any steep hillside and such.
Sounds like a good plan.
Hmm.
Not much we can do.
And I can't promise that it'll be safe. And I don't know what you'll find at the other end.
Manage.
I do believe that you can. Well, now, somebody help this old lady up, because I ain't getting up by myself.
Probably all four of them have to help lift.
Deadly. Like,
Now, if y'all need to run back to your camp and get anything, and be the time to do it. Say, be back here in a couple hours.
yes, ma'am.
Granny, how long can Caleb stay here?
I think I will keep him here, well, for a while. I want to see if I can't take care of some of these other marks and such on his skin. And the widow Bondi has graciously agreed to let him stay here, giving him a room for the time being. And he has agreed to kind of help out around the house. And Caleb just kind of, yes, ma'am. So
Thank you
no-
to you both for that.
If things do not get better before you need to send him on his way, Mr. Gregory, I'm sure will be happy to have an extra hand, considering 5 of us are heading off.
That is an excellent idea. And I could very well see Gregory doing something like that. I might have to bring that up to him. Now, I'm gonna put together some food and such for y'all to take with you. That way you got something to eat on the road. Maybe a few other little things, some surprises. Y'all take care of your things and come on back here when you're ready. Get you on the road. That Granny starts tottering off toward the kitchen. She kind of just does this at Caleb and gestures for him, and he obediently kind of follows her into the kitchen to do whatever it is she needs him to do. But then you have some time to yourselves to take care of whatever you need to.
I feel if we're all ready to head back to camp, we might as well all walk together after all. Just because it's light outside does not mean everything is safe.
Agreed.
Strength in numbers.
Yona will stay back at the house, since of course she didn't come with your group anyway. She stays back there and she's helping out Granny while you other 5 will head on over to the camp. And you're right at the edge of town, basically, right there where you're at the Widobondi's house. And while it's kind of on the other side of town from where the group is camped out, town ain't that big, so it don't take you too long to make your way over there. And you get there and you see the familiar signs of, folks cleaning up after breakfast, taking care of their various instruments and equipment. So you see some folks taking care of the animals, and a couple of folks fixing one of the wagons as well. Just kind of nothing major, but small repairs and upkeep and that sort of like.
Okay.
Oh, Gregory, you do catch a quick glimpse of him over by the carts. It looks like he's helping out the folks that are doing some repairs on one of those.
I probably try and catch his eye and kind of motion to wave him over as soon as he's available.
He sees you and he kind of lifts a hand and finishes doing what he's doing there for a second. And then you'll see him straighten up, clap the fella he's working with on the shoulder, and start walking over your way. And he pulls a handkerchief out of his pocket as he's walking, kind of wiping sweat off his forehead and such. Well, exciting evening.
It's an understatement.
Yeah.
All right. So what? Everything cleared up? Y'all help out Granny Thorn?
I think we've got ourselves in a little bit of a, not quite a pickle, but an obligation to help out. A little bit bigger than Ms. Granny Thorn could handle.
Yeah, she wants us to take care of some business over at Crawls Creek, so we might be gone for a little bit.
Crawls Creek. Yeah, that's a bit of a ways. What? How are y'all planning to get there?
I think
We're gonna catch the train.
to Pottersville.
I suppose that makes sense. That's probably the quickest way to get there. Y'all have money for the train?
That's what I've been worried about. I don't know if we exactly have train money.
I could always hop.
Ellis is on board, yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
We have a mission.
While that is true, and I may have partaken in that particular activity a few times myself in my younger days, might be better if you can just buy a ticket, or at least pay somebody to let you ride in one of the cars. Tell you what, give me a few minutes and I'll meet you back here. That way Granny can't say I didn't help out too. And he'll start heading back to his cart where he keeps all his possessions and the like. Now, is there anything that y'all need to grab from camp?
I was already looking at my list and I was like, dang, what am I gonna have to sell to get a train ticket? I was getting so worried. I was looking at my equipment like, I don't want to part with any of this.
Yeah, you got my money.
I was like, I have a gallon of moonshine. Surely that'll buy something.
Something.
Yeah. I am
Probably,
going
yeah.
to like somebody wants that. I'm gonna fill my thermos with some moonshine. Ellis does not partake, but Ellis knows that others appreciate it, so they try to have some on them at all times, in case anybody else is hurt.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab my Ouija board.
Okay.
I mean, if I can, I'd like to take all my stuff, but one of my things is a bicycle, and I don't know that that's as realistic. But I wanted a bike, so I have a bike.
I'm just picturing Ellis riding through the woods.
I said I could have one, and I was like, hell yeah, I want a bicycle. Might need that. Then I left it at camp, so it didn't come in my
Oh, one of those little kids are gonna love it.
It's true. It's true.
Now, Evelyn
Well-
probably. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'll take my compass too, because I don't know, that sounds helpful. I don't know why I'm being selective. Do I get to take all my stuff, GM? Are you just gonna let me have it, or do I have to
Can you
pick?
carry it?
I've got a travel pack.
I mean, as long as it's something that you could reasonably and logically carry with you, then absolutely.
So not the bicycle.
Probably not the
Fair.
bicycle.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Say comparatively, I think Evelyn overpacks just a little bit. Most of her belongings are coming with her, as in like her travel pack. She manages to fit that little tiny camp stove that she has in there, like bedroll tied on top. Everything else, it's kind of the stuff that's easy to carry: journal, medical supplies. Her grandfather's watch kind of always hangs from a clip on her waist.
Mhm.
You know, she also has a gallon of moonshine, and that does go in the pack.
Wait, who else in this group has a gallon of moonshine? Is it two of
We
us?
were- We were allowed 2 expensive things. I did not choose a bike.
Like,
Liquor sounds like the easiest thing to pick that's worth it off that list.
I
It's
mean,
true.
especially you think about the time frame that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Liquor
It
can
can
be
be
hard to come by.
bought. Used as medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep aids.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Emil had liquor as well. For
Probably.
his part of his doctor's kit.
Yeah, Evelyn probably overpacks a little bit, and the stuff that either came to her by way of the Volstalkers and like her banjo kind of just gets passed around. No one, either she'll come back for it eventually, or someone else will make use of it.
Yeah, anything that y'all decide to leave behind will basically get kind of packed in with the group's kind of general stuff. You know, their general equipment and stuff that doesn't necessarily belong to anyone in particular, but that the group uses as a whole when they have performances or for traveling, that kind of stuff. And that way they'll get packed in there for safekeeping and until y'all come back.
I do not like that. That comes.
I don't have many possessions, so I would probably just grab everything I have, which is pretty much
Okay.
like a bedroll, a knife, and some moonshine.
Okay. See? Everybody's got moonshine. Yeah, see, y'all don't even worry about train tickets. You just get
That's what I'm saying. Just
a
hop
small
on.
fortune with it.
Exactly.
You better hope that whoever is taking tickets though isn't a teetotaler.
Right? That's always
Fair.
the chance there. Well, once you have everything gathered up and ready to go, Gregory will meet you back out there, and he does have not a lot of money, but he's got a little collection of bills and such for you there that he says that should be enough to get get all of you on the train if you need to. And you know, don't worry about paying it back. I'll just make you work it off later once you get back.
Yes, sir.
Naturally.
And you all take care of yourselves. I do expect every single one of you back here as soon as possible. Until then, we'll kind of camp out here and pretty this time of year, and we don't need to be on the road anytime soon, so we'll be here when you make it back. So with that, you are free to return to the widow's house, or if there is anything else that you need to do, want to do.
Are we taking the same path back that we took last night?
You don't know yet.
Did we take that path to come back to camp?
No.
Oh, okay. And then
No, because basically the path that y'all took to get to Granny's last night is kind of past the widow's house. And you kind of came the opposite way because you came back into town.
wait, I'm sorry, because we stayed at the widow's house and
Mhm.
a group went to Granny's. But
Yep.
from camp to the widow's house, was it only that one path where we also
Oh, yeah.
had to fight? Okay. When we were walking back, did we see like remnants of any of those creatures?
Nope.
Yona
Oh.
did toss them also down goalie though.
But there was like, did anything look off?
Nothing that you could notice.
Okay.
Seems perfectly normal.
Everybody got everything? Ready to hit back?
Ready as ever.
Let's go.
So you make your way back to the widow's house. You get there and you do find that Granny has put together a few packages of foods, and it's the kind of stuff that'll last for a little bit out on the road. Some hard bread, some jerky, that kind of thing. Not the sort of thing that's going to spoil on you or need much in the way of preparing. You do notice that when you get there, Yona is gone. And it's just the widow, Granny, and Caleb, who was kind of tying up the last little bundle at the moment with a piece of twine as you all come on in. Well, you all got everything you need?
Let's hope so.
Feeling if we don't, it's a little too late now, man.
That's a good way to look at it. So I went through here and we packed you some victuals. Stuff that'll last you for a little bit out on the road. And well, so I did send Yona off to do something. She's gonna meet you over in Potterville. Just a little thing that she needs to take care of betwixt here and there. Now the rest of y'all, I mean, it's not hard to get there, really. At least so long as you stay on the road. That road out of town here going west will take you straight there. Now, if you get off the road, however, y'all just make sure you're aiming west and you're look for Baldy Mountain. That's probably the biggest landmark there nearby if y'all get lost and need to find something. Of course, they call it a mountain, but I don't know if any of y'all ever been out west, but it's kind of small when it comes to mountains. But anyway, I don't know what you're gonna find when you get there. But has anybody got any questions or anything like that I might be able to answer for you?
Anything that we should be looking for specifically when we get out to Crow's Creek?
Oh, once you get to Crow's Creek, and it's as she says that, rather than Granny doing anything, it's Caleb actually who suddenly snaps up, almost rigid like. He's got his sleeves kind of pulled up, show his forearms and such, and you can kind of see the muscles bunching under there as his fists clasped together real tight, and you can see he's almost shaking. And you can kind of see the veins kind of popping out the sides of his neck, and his eyes are kind of rolled back in his face, showing the whites. The house, the big house. Oh, I can see it. Big peaked roof, and there's no windows left. Look like the eyes of a skull staring at you. Place is full of death. And then he snaps out of it. Kind of blanks for a second. But he just looks confused and sits down. And Granny kind of looks over at him. Say it again.
Let's say Mr. Caleb.
Yes.
Where were you there for a second?
As far as I know, I was right here. Sure, I really remember what just happened. I just feel awful tired all of a sudden. A little bit lightheaded.
Oh, you were being very helpful.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think I need some more of that tea or something. I don't know.
Maybe something a little stronger, and I will pour him a little bit of moonshine.
He will gladly take it, and he drinks it fast enough that you might be might concerned with how it's going to hit him, but he looks better afterwards. Granny is like, well, maybe that answers a bit of your question.
It does.
She kind of side eyes Caleb as she's saying this, like, what's going to come out of him next? I ain't been to Cross Creek in years, I suppose, so I can't tell you anything about a big house or nothing there. But I'm guessing you ain't gonna have any trouble finding it, just based on that particular reaction that just took place.
Happen to remember what line it is that runs through there?
What line?
Railroad.
Oh, you know, I actually do not. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know too much about the railroads at all. That's just not something I've never been on one, never paid much attention to them.
Find out at Potter's.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, now, I imagine it'd probably take you, depending on how fast you go, it'd probably take you the better part of 2 days to get to to get to Potterville. So, ain't noon yet, so probably best be going.
If we all had bicycles, we'd get there even faster. Just saying.
It's true.
Bicycle, man.
It's true.
You try to ride one of them silly contraptions up through the woods, you're gonna hit a root or a rock, and you're gonna be ass over tea kettle.
Wouldn't be the first time, ma'am.
I can bet not. Bicycles.
Before we go, Granny, can I just, and I want to get notes on, because I had drawn out the symbols that we saw on Caleb the night prior. Any notes that she has about like what each symbol means? I just want to put those in my journal.
Okay.
To have for reference.
Yeah, she'll kind of sit down with you, and you point out the ones that you've written down and kind of what the ones that she has figured out, which is not all of them. There's still some that are unfamiliar to her, weren't in her book or anything, but she can kind of at least give you the basics of a number of them, what they kind of lean towards and signify and such. And it's like she said before, a lot of it has to do with calling and summoning and binding, that kind of thing.
Virgil's probably nosily looking over the notes and talking over some as well.
I think we have as much as we can have to get started on this.
Brady, unless I did see your garden outside.
Mm-hmm.
I know your work, at least, and I mean, I can get plenty from the woods. The green does take care of those who need it, but is there anything out there that's going to be a little hard to find once we get on the road?
Oh, and not in this little garden. No, these are just some fairly common things that I have found that when I'm here in town helping out folks that might be sick or something, it's kind of an emergency supply, I suppose you could say. That I can grab something fresh from there if I need to while I'm here in town instead of having to get something from all the way back at my cabin. But nothing too unusual or anything like that you might not be able to find on your own wild.
Good. Thank you for all your help, ma'am. And again, I'm sure Mr. Gregory, if he needs to, would be more than happy to help out with Mr. Caleb, should that be a little too much for you, widow.
I do appreciate that thought, and I believe it's a good one, so I'm sure Mr. Gregory wouldn't mind having an extra hand. With that, unless anybody has anything else, time to head out on the road. Now, Granny told you that getting from here where you're at, Alex Crossing, to Potterville is not too big of a deal. It's easy to find. All you got to do is follow the main road, and it'll take you straight there. Thankfully, there's not too many roads around here that you can get confused. You got one coming from one side and one going out the other. So, heading out on the western road, it's just a little bit before noon at this point in the day, so the sun's overhead, and got the birds and the squirrels and such making noise all around you. The trees, while they do kind of reach in overhead from both sides, they leave enough of an opening there that the road itself has a decent amount of sunshine and shade along the edges. The weather's nice. Got a beautiful blue sky up there. So as you're traveling, is there anything in particular that you folks like to do?
would say
Grant?
that Stella is probably playing the drums on her legs as she walks, just like tapping out a beat. This helps with concentration and doing things for a really long time, like monotonously walking through a forest. She's a little jittery and scatterbrained, so she's probably
So-
just trying to keep herself alert.
So Stella is the one with ADHD. Gotcha.
Yep.
Evelyn, I know you were talking about finding herbs in the woods and that sort of thing. Is that something you're trying to do as you travel along, or?
I mean, definitely if I can spot something, but also at the same time, Evelyn's trying to keep an eye out for anything that might be trying to make itself hard to see.
Well, let's do this. I'll have everybody just do a quick roll for me. Just do a quick, what's it called? Intellect roll. The difficulty on this is not anything major, so let's just make it a 3, I suppose. Or not a 3. Sorry, I mean, yeah, difficulty 3. So target, so 9 is what your actual number is. I had it right in my head. I just said it wrong.
If it's just straight
19.
intellect, do we add anything to that?
I mean, if you have anything that aids in observation and noticing things, anything like that.
I mean, I have the see the unseen. That's specifically for anything hidden. So I'm not sure if that would.
Is that just ease it?
Yes, the task is. I mean, I got a 16, so.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, you passed it
Yeah.
with flying colors anyway. So.
I'm just trying to make sure I know how to roll this system.
I have given you the gift of rolling.
No, what I do is after every roll, I reset it and I stick it on a 1 at the top. That way it is less likely to roll.
I'll have to do that next time.
What did everybody else get?
16.
19.
Boy, what's your problem there, Sean?
You know, I feel like Virgil is a bit talkative and probably just got lost in an anecdote or a story. Just mentally went to where he was talking about for a second.
Also, I did realize I was reading See the Unseen wrong. It's you automatically perceive creatures and objects that are hidden normally invisible, insubstantial, or hidden via magic. It's only ease when it is something conventionally hidden.
Okay. Well, as you're making your way, and I will say that, over the course of, a few hours traveling and such, Evelyn, you do find, a few things here and there that you think could be useful for different workings and such. Maybe a nice patch of mushrooms that you find at the base of a tree that you recognize that could be used for some things, and a few other things here and there, maybe some berries, and, a little bit of. I don't know nothing about herbalism or anything like that myself. I'm absolute black thumb when it comes to plants, so nothing major, nothing crazy, but just maybe some things that could be useful later. Other than that, not much really catches your eye or brings your attention, other than the normal forest sort of things, birds and squirrels and rabbits and Virgil.
Every
um, as you're going along, and at one point, Virgil is telling a story, and at this point, you've kind of started. The road has started climbing a little bit up the hills, and you've got a fairly decent incline down on one side because you've been traveling kind of further up and up as you go, and while everybody else is paying a little bit better attention to their footing and stuff, Virgil, on the other hand, is turned halfway around like this, telling some story to maybe he's talking to Stella at the moment, when your foot catches on a particularly decent sized stone, and the next thing you know, you're seeing this lovely alternating picture of sky, ground, sky, ground, sky, ground, as Virgil goes rolling down the hill that he has just fallen down off the side of the road. Well, luckily, he doesn't run into any of the fairly large trees that kind of dot this hill, but manages to somehow kind of thread the needle right down through here. Thump, 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 and you hear, his pack is just trang, trang, trang. It's just jangling and banging around as he's bouncing down this hillside.
I like to think that part of the impetus of my traction going downhill is the circular motion I've created to protect my violin, so I'm even more in the shape of a tire, just going down this hill.
He's just clutching this violin case and oh god, no, It's bouncing down the hill, and he finally comes to a stop at the bottom, and he's sprawled out on his back, with one hand still clutching that instrument to the side. And what would y'all like to do now that your buddy has gone on a little trip? He's probably a good 30 or 40 feet down the hill.
That's so much
Thanks,
farther than I
Stella.
thought he was.
Yeah. I was thinking 10 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Just fall 4 stories. It's cool.
It's not.
So I'm
it's not a
probably
super
at
steep
the
hill,
top.
so it's still pretty decent angle. So it's.
So I'm definitely standing at the top, just watching this happen, and I'm gonna shout down "Are you alive?"
I'm alive. Taylor's nice. This is, as I was saying, my performance. This was kind of how it went. Long story short.
Are you broken?
I gently jostle the violin case and not hear anything broken there. Not in any place that matters.
You are definitely bruised and battered, and definitely you can feel your brains have been shaking around like ice in a margarita glass.
Should I take off any actual damage?
No,
Okay.
I ain't gonna worry about it.
For Virgil.
Yeah.
I have 50 feet of rope. I would like to tie it just around a tree and toss it down to Virgil. Are you able to pull yourself back up, or do you need one of us to come help you?
No, the rope is kind enough. I can just use that.
And the whole time that I am tying it, I'm just grumbling. Granny thought that I was gonna go ass over tea kettle. Look who's tripping over here.
And it's once you manage to get back to your feet and straighten out a little bit. Oh, it's not hard to get back up, especially with the rope to help. Like I said, it's not a terribly steep hillside. It is still a little bit damp in places where the dew hasn't completely dried out, thanks to being in the shadows and such. But so there's a couple of close calls where your foot hits one of those patches of wet grass, and it starts to slip out from under you a little bit. But after a while, you manage to make it back to the top without further humiliation or injury.
As soon as Virgil is at the top, Ellis is over, kind of patting him down. Like as callous as Ellis was, now that you are here and safe, they are kind of looking you over, patching up what they can, giving you a little bit of moonshine to take a swig of since you took a tumble. They take the violin and place it gently down and make sure that it's not going to get stepped on while they're looking you over. But just, Virgil, please don't do that again, if you can help it.
Well, as much as I'm one to enjoy encores, I think that's one repeat performance I'll avoid.
Mr. Virgil, you were raised in a city, weren't you?
For more of my life than not, yeah. I would like to say that my history is devoid of accidents such as these, but that's not the case.
Honesty is admirable, and I don't think any of us are quite so surprised. Just helps when you're walking in the woods to face forward. Might make things a little easier.
Make sure you're watching where you step. Well,
Maybe stay in the middle of the road.
I will take all of these words to heart.
gotta be glad it was a fall and not a moccasin.
I will walk relatively close to Virgil just to make sure, because and I'm sure that he starts telling his stories again, and Ellis is more than happy to lean in and like listen to them, and it does pass the time. But Ellis is also like, please don't trip down the hill again. We got lucky once. Second time is not going to be so good.
I'm picturing Ellis like walking on the outside between.
I probably like stumble a little bit a couple of times trying to make sure that that Virgil doesn't trip over anything. It's not exactly the best solution, but in my head, they're trying to be helpful.
I appreciate it.
So, after that particular instance, y'all continue to make your way. Imagine at some point you probably, I don't know if you wanted to stop along the way to eat and rest, or just eat while you're on the road. Up to y'all. If you decide to do that, it's easy enough. There's plenty of places to kind of sit down for a spell and take care of that. Other
We'd
than
all be
that,
looking at Virgil to see if he needs the break.
I think Virgil is the kind to not audibly complain. As much as he's a talker, he'll truck along for as long as he thinks is expected.
Otherwise, it's eat on your feet, and I'm sure Evelyn will break out at least one of those packages from Granny and pass out the tack, and y'all are on your own for water or liquids.
I mean, we all have moonshine.
I mean,
Same thing, right?
Yeah, but some of us
Liquid.
don't share as easy as Ellis
Liquid.
does.
My thermos has water in it. I will clarify that now. I don't actually have moonshine. Some of us
He wants
decide to spend their expensive items on other things.
Priorities.
I am one of my abilities is living off the land, so I am able to find, I don't know if it's potable or potable water in the wilderness. So I am able to keep us hydrated so we don't have to just drink moonshine over the next 2 days. Don't feel like that would go great for us. So I am trying to
Probably
make
not.
sure that everybody has drinkable water throughout the trek.
There's probably a point where everyone will be stumbling down their own.
By the time we get to the end, Virgil's the only one who's made it. The rest of us are down the side of the mountain.
everybody else is like passed out along the way.
Yeah.
And
We get drunk enough, we think we made it.
Exactly.
We'll just all band together with that rope. Just tie it around ourselves so we can just stay together.
Like the little backpacks for toddlers.
Exactly.
Everyone just has a different leash.
right, they're all tied to Virgil.
Yep.
Exactly.
Who's his Virgil's tied to?
This is not great. If all of you are like this, next time I go off a hillside, we're all going.
So, y'all continue your walk, continue traveling. You make a pretty decent pace, like I said. You're traveling along the road. It's easy enough. It's, well, not exactly as smooth as the kind of roads you might find up north or when you get close to the bigger cities or such. It's definitely still a road, packed dirt and such. There's a couple of times you do pass somebody else. A couple of folks making their way from going in the other direction and riding on horseback. Nothing particularly interesting. They wave, you go on your way. Now eventually you get to a point where it kind of starts to level out some more. Rather than this kind of slow uphill kind of gradient, you get a little more level, and you're once again walking with the trees on both sides and kind of cutting through the woods rather than skirting around the edge of the hills. And it does tend to get a little darker, a little more shadows here. Still warm enough, but it feels different. Doesn't feel as inviting here. Those bird sounds you've been hearing, rather than, that kind of comforting, almost happy sound, they almost feel ominous now. Like they're no longer just the general back and forth. They're warnings. Something, birds warning each other that something's there. Something that maybe they don't like happening there. It's
Watch about what time is it?
It's about, let's see, sundown these parts of these times and everything is probably around 9 o'clock. It's probably about 6:30 or so, according to your watch. So you're getting on into evening. The shadow's long. It's starting to cool off a bit.
I have my flashlight in one hand and my machete in the other.
Not exactly sure if we need to be backtracking to get out of this forest or puffing it a little bit faster, but I don't feel safe if we camp in here tonight.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
We're already on a compressed timeline, so I don't think backtracking is a good idea. Get out of here as quick as we can.
Ellis, and even though this is not your native country and these aren't the kind of woods you grew up around, you can feel something wrong. Something that doesn't fit with what's around here. And for a moment you almost feel like there are eyes on you. Like something is watching you for a minute, and it almost feels familiar.
Familiar in the Caleb magic way?
Familiar. Well, actually, make an intellect roll for me real quick.
Would this be anything about perception related tasks?
Yeah, let's go with that.
I believe that eases it by 1.
Okay.
Doesn't matter, I rolled a natural 1. Damn it, Virgil.
Oh,
I get this
the
luck
curse of
this
Virgil.
time.
Okay.
You put it on the right one.
Apparently.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Okay. Man, why do y'all keep doing this on like perception related stuff? That's hard to come up with weird stuff.
Wait, isn't there a mechanic in the game that I can push to re-roll?
You can spend an XP.
You can spend.
I thought it was an effort.
Or is there anything I could possibly help with? Is there a help out kind of role?
Not in this case.
Damn it, I want to know what this is.
And any of us can spend XP, but I feel like we're all still don't have much.
I mean, everybody's got at least one, and then there's a few people that's got 2.
How? I should know this, but I don't. What is effort for in this game then?
So you
I
can
thought
use
that-
effort to make things easier.
Oh, damn it. Okay. That's a before rolling thing.
Yeah.
Damn. Alright, well. I don't know shit.
All right.
And we might still find out, just in a less happy way.
And I can
I like
automatically see anything invisible.
No, I'm aware.
I know.
So
Why
as you get
specialize
this,
in listening and hearing.
I didn't. I actually have an inability that's dangerous. What is it?
Oh no.
so as you feel this, as you get this feeling that something is watching you, and you start to get this feeling that this is familiar. You felt this kind of presence before. And then you do remember where you felt this presence before. That first night when you all met Caleb. those strange creatures that you met. To you, this feels very much like those. And for whatever reason, part of you remembers the feeling of their presence. It has less to do with, seeing, hearing, anything like that. It's definitely a more metaphysical sense. But as you... Okay. Say something.
Nope. Go ahead.
As,
I'm afraid. Go ahead.
As this realization dawns on you, you kind of... for a second, it becomes overwhelming. Like... it's not at a distance anymore. Suddenly this feeling, this presence of what they are is almost, it's clamped onto you. Like you are feeling this inside of yourself. And you start choking and you get this, it's like coal dust. You can feel it on your tongue and in your throat. And you start hacking and coughing. And I need you to make a might roll for me.
Oh no. I am not mighty at all.
This is my dumb skill.
That one fell. It's gone for forever. That's a 7.
That's enough.
Oh my god.
You only needed a 6.
Oh my god.
So you hack and cough, and you managed. It's like there's something in your throat, like you inhaled just a big old mouthful of this dust and dirt and whatever this wrongness is. Because you feel it almost tingling on the inside of your mouth and everything, like almost an electric feel. But you hack and cough and you reach up to cover your mouth and it comes back black. But you can breathe just fine.
I am mechanically, because I have living off the land, I'm immune to natural disease. So Ellis does not get sick. So this knocks them to their knees because they are not used to coughing and not feeling well like that. So I am on my hands and knees. One hand has the flashlight raised and I'm just wildly scanning it because I think that it's these creatures again and I am afraid that they're going to attack while I'm down. And then I sit back and I kind of wipe my mouth and I think I'm just kind of staring at my hands. And I am not saying anything. I am very much in shock right now.
Are you
Ellis. Don't look right. You okay?
Do they see that my hands come away black, or is this something only I see?
Oh, it's there.
Okay. That's never happened before. Something. It felt like those things from last night, but it made this happen. And is it like a soot texture, or is it like blood or soot?
Think like soot or ashes or coal dust, something along. More like coal dust because coal dust is very gritty and has more texture to it than like ash or soot generally does. That obviously now mixed with saliva and all that fun stuff, so it's like It's like a slurry.
Ew, that was terrible. Oh man. Um,
Yep.
this I don't know what just happened, and I'm like looking. I want to wipe this off, but I don't want it on my clothes. So I'm just like looking around trying to find something that I can use to wipe this off. Um, if there's a patch of grass.
Stella, leave.
Are you sure this is?
It's fine.
I will wipe my hands on Stella's sleeve, and I feel very bad about it. That was
Oh. For those of you who have been around the mines, that's generally anybody who grew up in the Appalachians.
Like black.
Looks like black lung. You're generally, most of the time, even if you get coal dust wet, and it gets that nasty kind of viscous black goo almost. That's what it looks like to y'all.
I think we have that. I saw that a lot growing up. I don't think you've
Why-
had mine, have you?
I have never stepped foot in one. I've not been sick since I was a kid. Do I otherwise feel okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, other than, I mean, you had a big coughing fit. That's what it feels like. So, a little bit of achy, a little bit of, your throat feels a little rough like you would after you coughing pretty heavily for a minute or two. But otherwise, you feel fine.
Well, we should move faster, but I know that I'm in the hands of very capable folk, so we'll be all right. And as part of me saying that, I'm going to activate encouragement to these allies' defense rolls as
Okay.
I begin just talking, and my anecdotes become very encouraging and inspirational as my flow of not shutting up turns to a more encouragement based.
And how long does that last?
I basically have to keep it up every round.
Okay.
But my edge takes care of it not having a cost.
Okay.
But I try and disguise any, in case it's part of any supernatural part that I can do, because I don't think Virgil is sure of that. It's part of why he talks nonstop. And I think Virgil, knowing that Ellis is one of the more supernaturally bent people, is worried that they're being targeted by this, not knowing the meta concept of a jam intrusion. I'm gonna hand you my good luck charm. Say, here, put this in your left, double check, left hand pocket. It should keep this from happening.
Are you sure? I don't want to take something from you that you might need.
I feel like you having it will save me better.
I appreciate it, Virgil. And I will very carefully put it in the left-hand pocket exactly where he said.
Feel free to give it back once we're through the woods. But that's my Jag of Luck. It allows you to re-roll without using XP points.
Delightful, thank you.
All right, now that we've done that, let's. I know you might not be up for it, Ellis, but we gotta get. I don't think
absolutely
we need to stay here.
do. I take another swig of moonshine, and I well, actually, no, my probably one of the few times y'all have seen Ellis drink, because Ellis doesn't drink very often, but I take a swig of moonshine and I keep walking because I did not like that.
Gotta clear your throat somehow.
I know. I also make sure my flashlight is out and good.
Okay. So you continue on along the path here, and while it is evening and approaching nightfall, it starts to feel darker than it should. Almost like you look up and you can still see the sky, but there just doesn't seem to be as much light making it down where you're all at. Almost like the trees are blocking more than they normally would. And it just feels oppressive. Like you are unwanted here. Or something is unwanted here. After a while, you start to notice that those sounds you were hearing earlier, the bird calls and such, have all faded. The only sound are your feet on the road. Virgil's words never seem to stop. Evelyn. Up ahead, you can see what looks like a downed tree kind of off to the side. Looks like a fairly large tree. Most likely it finally fell over when its roots gave up the ghost and stopped holding it much in place. And so the bottom of it, you can see kind of poking up into the air. There's still some of that dirt and everything clumped up among what's left of its old gnarled roots. It's probably been there for quite a while. It's long dead, you think. But kind of in the depression that was left behind there at the base of that, where the tree had once sat, you catch a bit of movement. Something dark and shadowy and once again familiar. And it puts you in mind of those critters from the night before. For a moment you see it, just a flicker of movement, and then it's gone, almost like it ducked behind another tree or rock or something.
Evelyn's gonna grab Ellis's arm, probably Virgil's, and them like trying to be as quiet as possible to a stop and hoping everyone kind of stops. She only does have 2 hands.
I'll reach out for Stella, kind of just arms.
Have a little bit of company. Those either we have to face it on or outrun. It likes to hide.
Direction is it?
She points over in the direction of the down tree. It was.
We can blind it with the light and run for it.
We can certainly try, but everything fears the light, unfortunately. Do I see it moving still?
Not at this moment.
I see any movement at all.
Nope. Nothing's moving at the moment outside of you all.
I am also scanning for the record, kind of away from the tree, just in case anything is trying to circle us or anything like that.
Let's do this.
I would also be trying to listen very intently around us to see if I can hear any movement whatsoever.
Okay. Anybody who wants to can make an intellect check. If you have anything that applies to, perception, hearing, etc., all that kind of stuff, you can use that to ease the difficulty. I think the difficulty on this one is, what did I have here? The regular difficulty is going to be a 15.
Can I ask what it is if it's eased by 1? Because I have perception-related tasks I'm trained.
I mean, if you make it, I'll tell you what it is.
I didn't make it, so I want to know if I should use the reroll. I am. I'm gonna go ahead and use that free reroll from the good luck charm.
Yeah, that only
'Cause
works
I feel
once.
like that's okay. I feel like I need to see what's out here. Well, no, because we're all looking.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna trust my team. I'm not gonna use it yet.
Technically, if this thing is a creature, I should be able to see it if it's magic. If it's not magic, have wilderness X navigation.
I did not succeed.
Yeah, no, I got an 11. I think it's harder.
I
for me to
got-
get that.
I got an 11, but I am specialized in all things hearing and listening.
And what does specialized give you? Does it just ease it by 1?
By 2 steps.
By 2 steps. So if it eases it by 2 steps, then that is a success.
Thank God. Cool.
So I'm just picturing everybody almost kind of back to back in this circle, looking around, and you don't see anything. Nobody catches a glimpse of whatever might be out there. But Stella, you hear almost a... how do you describe this kind of thing? Almost a burble or a... It doesn't sound like any animal that you've heard before, this particular noise. It's almost like a cross between 2 rocks rubbing together with liquid running between them. It's this, it makes you a little uncomfortable. Just that sound of it, but you have heard that sound before. You heard that sound last night when those critters attacked you, tried to get to Caleb. You know that sound. And you're definitely hearing it now. Almost like they're communicating with each other. Like they're talking back and forth from different sides of you. There's definitely some
Like
out
a
front.
language?
Could be. Not like any language you've ever heard before. more akin to, say, when a wolf pack or a coyote pack hunts together, and they yip and they bark, they howl and they growl. To call it a language maybe isn't entirely accurate, but it's communication between them. And that's kind of the impression that you have of what's going on now. And it feels like they're closing in.
They're getting closer to us, you guys. There's definitely more than one, and I can hear them, and they are getting closer.
During the time since had us stop, I'd like to think that I would have been using inside voice on everyone without them being aware of it yet. And so I'll say, alright, so I have a secret. Don't be alarmed, but this is me. As I then telepathically say to all of you in a voice that is distinctly not Virgil's. It is different for each of you, and quite possibly not in English, if that's not your native language. I'll speak like this going forward to help without drawing attention. You all can't talk to each other, but I can talk to each other. And that'll last 10 minutes.
This is Kian. That is delightful. I love that so much.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I think you would see Ellis kind of like stop and shake their head because I can't imagine that they have heard Visayan any time recently. And that is their native language, so they are very confused for a moment. And looking at Virgil, who they know is probably doesn't speak Visayan, and it would be weird for him to hide that this whole time. Looking very confused, but nodding along, and would just kind of communicate back. This is new, but thank you. And is very impressed because Virgil is coming in clutch. So
Right. So is it just we're able to talk to Virgil, or are we able to talk
Yeah,
to each
it's
other?
just to me. So I can relay anything, but it's more, it's one-on-one from me. That's why I can keep up encouragement or anything else I got without it having to be out loud necessarily.
Probably
cool.
get yes, it is. But you probably get Evelyn going. Okay, Mr. Virgil, could you, if you can pass along a message, ask Stella if it seems like there's how many of them. I think our plans might have to change here on the fly. I have a little something in my pack, but it means that we gotta stay put for a bit.
Yeah, I'll relay that.
Yim? Can I tell how many that there are?
You can make an intellect check real quick. See if maybe you could estimate. Just tell me what you rolled.
Could be a 2.
There's more than 2 of them out there.
man, we really came in strong with those first rolls. And it is
It's somewhere between like 2 and 20.
Okay. Well, I have a new voice in my head, so I'm probably a little distracted. So
Once again, bad rolls.
there's
are
more
Virgil's
than
fault.
2. Yep. Now, hold on. GM question. So, are you sure this isn't a language? Because I do have a skill called dialect, and if I'm listening long enough, then I can tell what it is that they're saying.
I don't think it would work. They're not smart enough. It'd be like trying to talk to a chipmunk. Chipmunks, yeah, they you know, they don't have a language per se. More just like alarm, food, that kind of thing. You know, it's not, hey, how are you this Sunday, and do you want to go down and hang out by the river?
These are not the chipmunks from Emperor's New Groove, is what I'm
No,
telling
they're no
No,
squeak, squeak,
not
squeaking.
those.
you. Damn.
Okay. So I would relay back to Virgil that there's more than two. If you want to let everyone know.
There's more than two.
I will communicate to Virgil. You don't have to keep me updated. Just tell me if we're gonna fight or run. And I am just scanning constantly, but I am gonna trust my team to tell me what to do.
If that gets relayed back to me, is your lantern a lit lantern, or is it a special, like you actually have a light bulb in there?
I have a light bulb specifically,
Same.
which is unfortunate because I was trying to see if I had a match anywhere or something like that.
I think
'Cause
everybody's
moonshine
got
is very
flashlight.
flammable.
Yeah.
No, I specifically need fire for this.
Um,
I have
GM.
I have a pipe.
Oh, never mind.
Then what you would see Evelyn do, because I'm deciding to pick my cipher now. Just go ahead and use that for I was still making that decision, but apparently it's gonna happen now. You see kind of Evelyn rustle around in her pack for a moment and pull out this like mason jar. It's got like, it looks like it's just dirt clumped together. You can, it's in a light, you could probably see like flecks of like white eggshell nails, something gray in the soil, and she starts to like just spread it around them in a circle as she like kind of relays back to Virgil. Okay, we need to set this fire as fast as possible. You need to find out if someone has a light.
I'll play this.
And Estella would just like drop the match or whatever she happens to have just on the circle that's gonna light up, and it's called a circle of safety. So I get to roll my cipher level, which for this is going to be 6, 7, and the fire is going to burn an hour. It's creating a nearly impenetrable, I cannot pronounce that word right, barrier. Creatures attempting to cross the fire take damage equal to the cipher level and are forced to flee for 1 round. I must make a roll to see if the cipher affects the creatures attempting to cross.
Okay.
What I roll against.
Okay. So, let's see here. So Evelyn brings out this jar, and with Stella's help, they make the circle, drop the match, and this line that they have created around the group suddenly blazes up into fire. And at first it is this blinding white flame that comes up and encircles them all, rising up over their heads before it settles back down a little bit into this almost golden red-orange with twists of green and blue moving through the flames. And in the light, you see out beyond it now. You see shapes moving in the near darkness. Almost look like wolves at first. But somehow not. Maybe that one has longer legs than it should. That one's got flattened head. The jaws on that one are far too large. Half dozen move towards the flames, slowly creeping towards your little circle of protection. And they make you all hear that stone on wet, burbling sound now. First from here and then from there. As they move closer and closer to you. One on each side. And they look at you beyond the flames and you feel hunger. Twisted, dark hunger, and you smell coal dust. And that is where we will leave this episode. So, we're going to leave that episode right there. And once again, before we head out for the evening, we're going to go around the room real quick and just let everybody tell you who they are and maybe where they can find you real quick. So I'm just going to start up here at the top again with JD. And since it's top of my screen.
Hello, I am JD. Tonight I have been Stella, and you can find me on the internet as JD Lean.
Ian.
Hello, hello. My name is Kian. I have been Ellis tonight. You can find me on the interwebs at uptight-chiffon or uptight_chiffon, depending on where you are. But yeah, I'm usually hanging out here over on Lost Caravan.
And Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean. Tonight I have been playing Virgil Stokes. You can find me on the internet at Sidian or The Sidian on Twitter, and you can usually also find me on stuff here on Lost Caravan.
And Alice.
Hi y'all, I'm Alice. I have been Evelyn Hart. You can pretty much find me everywhere online at Alice Hart except for Twitter, where I am Hellion Hart.
And also generally in our cast, but unable to join us tonight due to various technical issues, which seem to be a running theme at the beginning of the evening. We also have Omen Azunia and Taylor Potato, or however her thing goes. There's a lot of syllables in there that I don't think should be there. But they will hopefully both be joining us here in the future so that we can get things back on track once we get all their technical issues worked out. I am Rise, Rize. You can find me at that on Blue Sky. You can find me on Threads and IG as Raven Black Photography. Other than that, I show up a lot here on Lost Caravan and every once in a while on a couple other channels. And hopefully I'll see you all around there real soon. Other than that, we'd like to thank our tech Dido, because Dido makes everything work, and without them we would be absolutely dead in the water. So other than that, I hope to see you back here for episode 4, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Bye everybody.